Why success feels like stress when clients aren't aligned. That's a good topic to have. I'm excited to jump into this video because having misaligned clients is the story of my life as a marketing agency owner and as a freelancer. Perhaps you feel the same. Let me share my own personal experience here. Maybe you feel the same. I think probably you would, and then I'm going to provide a solution to it. So essentially, the question that we'll explore in this video here is that have you ever worked with clients who just weren't aligned with your values and felt the energy drain every single time? I certainly have. I'd love to know if you experience the same thing. Let's dive in. So first of all, for me, having misaligned clients, this can be separated into two sections. It's before and after. So the before is when I was in pursuit of a revenue goal. This was a amount of money that I was told was what I should be aiming for as a copywriter, and that's what I aimed for a long time. And then one day I got it. And so immediately after achieving the revenue goal, I wanted to set the next revenue goal, which was more than 2.5 times what I currently made. Massive step up if you come to think about it. Probably not the best thing to do either, because it ended in disaster. So that's the first part. And the second part is after I achieved the revenue goal, which was when I was focused on trying to search for more meaning and purpose in my life, and my journey of finding it, and what I did about it, the solution that I came upon, and what I'm now trying to do about it. So the first is before, while in pursuit of my revenue goal. So when I was in pursuit of my revenue goal, in order to have that financial security that I wanted so badly, the only thing that motivated me was money. It was always, how much can I get from this interaction, from this relationship, and how fast can I get it? Of course it was, because when I first started out as a content writer, this was back in 2015 I think, someone was paying me between $10 to $15 for travel articles. They were doing it to boost some kind of SEO stuff. It was back in the day. Initially I put a lot of time and effort into it because, the pursuit of excellence, diligence, conscientiousness. Then I realised that the person that I wrote it for did not care in the slightest about what the content was. All they cared about was the number of backlinks they had to boost their clients' domain authority. When I realised this, I no longer took care and pride in what I did. I then got excited when I could write 5 articles in an hour that would be would just contain fluff and words, so to speak. It's sort of the most surface level stuff you can put in an article, because I could then, I can do 5 articles in an hour, which at the time was $50 an hour. Happy for that. Give me as many articles as I can do. And so that's the lens that I viewed things with. But then naturally I got annoyed when this particular client did not value the work that I did, or did not value me, and just treated me like a commodity. And it ended bad. The relationship ended bad. And then I moved on to another content writing because I like travel writing. At the time we were traveling, so I had the experience. I've always been into study and learning, so every place we went I'd be learning and reading and trying to figure the place out and having adventures and whatnot. So I was perfect for it. And so I worked for them, and it was the editor was someone who was younger than me. He was early 20s at the time. I was late 20s, and they were paying me $50 per article. But these articles had to go through an editing process and whatnot. And at the time, I thought it was great, because I went from writing five meaningless articles to get about $50. You know, let's just do it on a word count, because it's easy just to understand. So before, with the first client, it was about 2,500 words for 2,500 words for about $50. And then the second client I worked with, it was about 1,000 words for $50. So in terms of the time it took, it was about the same kind of thing. Even with the editing process in, I was making about $50 an hour. And so quickly, I was doing 30 articles a week for them, $1,500 a week. I was so happy because you were traveling, and I was always suggesting ideas. I was always suggesting new things. For the most part, I actually enjoyed what I was doing. I was enjoying it. I was happy there, and I think I wrote several hundred articles for this website. And then one day it was, come to think of it, it was the day that my grandmother died. We found out that she had cancer and she was given 2 months to live. And so we came back from Malaysia to England, and you know, it was not a pleasant time. It was stressed because I was very, very close to my grandmother. And then I think it was the day that, it was either the day that she died or it was the day of the funeral. It's a bit fuzzy. But this company just emailed me and said, "Oh, we're no longer working with writers anymore. Goodbye." What? I was shocked. I tried to talk to the editor, who again was younger than me, fresh out of media school, did his degree in media studies, and then he got the gig here where he's managing these writers and all of this. And I'm trying to explain what's the problem, why are we doing it? Oh, I'm so sorry, but I've just received this memo from head office that we now have enough articles on the website. It's now time to stop. We've got enough, time to stop. So the people above me have just told me to get rid of all the writers. Oh, I don't know what's happening myself. I'm so sorry. Well, he was just a messenger. Can't blame him. The point is that the website, they treated me as nothing more than an absolute commodity. They viewed the people that they hired as nothing more than, we want you to do this number of articles per month. If you don't hit these targets, we're going to be pressuring you, asking you why. All of the stuff coming down. But the very second that they'd hit their target, gone. No, we no longer need you. Gone. And this kind of reminds me of something I heard about Elon Musk. And Elon Musk is apparently like this too, that absolutely no loyalty, and he'd hire people and teams to build whatever it is that he does, but the second that it's achieved, then gone, so we can focus on something else. I suppose from a business standpoint, and for someone like Elon Musk, that's probably well, I don't really have an opinion on it, because in some ways that's what you have to do. In other ways, it's not really the right thing to do, so I don't really want to comment on it. But the point is that by these two clients, I was treated as nothing more of a commodity, and so this is the problem I had with misaligned clients. I was trying my best. I was in the pursuit of excellence. I was trying to do the best job that I possibly could, and I thought that my time and effort actually mattered. In actual fact, they just didn't care in the slightest, and that was the story of what happened to start off with. And then I realised that and thought, I'm not going to fall for this again. And when I decided to harden my heart and harden my approach to things, and then I started to treat clients in that way as well, where I'm only going into this interaction to get your money. Of course, I still always went the extra mile, but it was always focused on how can I deliver the biggest result with the least amount of effort, kind of thing. And it just wasn't a good thing to do, because I was treated like a commodity. So then naturally I started to treat other people like a commodity. And so the misaligned clients before I hit my financial target were all people that treated me in what I consider to be you treat me, you're not valuing me as a human, kind of thing. You're treating me as nothing more than a resource, as a commodity, which is very common in the secular business world. And so I adopted that mindset myself, and that experience that I had then shaped the way that I got into copywriting and started to treat other people, which again purely transactional, which led to some level of transactional success. So that's the first side of it. The second side of it is when I did hit my financial targets, and I'm no longer trying to chase revenue all the time. I'm now trying to think more about, well, what's the purpose of things? And so naturally I then try to go above and beyond working with clients. I come up with ideas of how I can help people and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to serve people and whatnot. But of course none of that was rooted in anything other than my sort of North Star of making money. So of course, how can I expect to treat people like humans when my North Star is making money and making money for clients to justify my fee for them? And then, well, you can treat people like humans, and I did, but ultimately when your North Star is transactional, the day-to-day decisions and based on money, revenue, return on investment, so and that led me in retrospect, in hindsight, to fire a team member once for something that wasn't a fireable offence, but because I was focusing on money as the North Star, which then just eliminated all of the previous 18 months of good stuff I did, gone in an instant. And so I tried to inject meaning into what I was doing, but of course it's kind of impossible to inject meaning from a transformative perspective into a relationship that's based entirely on money, because in every decision money always comes out on top, and then if you're making decisions based on money, it devalues the human. The money supersedes humans, and so humans are always under money. You by nature will treat the human as a tradable commodity, kind of thing, in that same perspective. A human is no different from a product, no matter how much you try to paint the picture and try to make it seem less blunt than that, but that is essentially what it is, because money will always dictate the way that you operate in relationship with team members, with staff, with clients. So it's kind of impossible, at least with my current understanding, to inject transformation to fundamentally change the nature of the relationship that you're in if money is your primary goal. If you flip it around, if transformation is your primary goal, which impact is your primary goal, then absolutely 100% revenue can go underneath that. And you'll often find that by focusing on impact, revenue is going to increase anyway. Well, how does that relate to the struggle with misaligned clients? Is because once I reach my revenue target, and then I tried to find the next goal, which was rooted in making more money, but also because I was financially secure at the time, I was then able to focus on more transcendent things and search for meaning and purpose, because Maslow's hierarchy needs. Food and you've got to have food and drink first, and then you've got to have shelter, and then you've got to focus on becoming financially secure before we can think about the meaning of life and all of this stuff. You've got to go through the process of getting all these lower order needs met before you can focus on. So I started to focus on it, and I started to try to inject this transformative aspect into these relationships, which are based 100% on transactions. And so as a result, I was putting more time and effort into clients. I was consciously trying to remember the name of their wives and their kids, and asking about them, and trying to actually have a human relationship more so than just the service that I was going to deliver for them. With one client who was my main client for a long time, I had good rapport with him. We both did weightlifting, which I used to do a lot of, but you know, I'm more prioritising running now, and so every time we had a call, we'd be talking about weightlifting, how he's doing, and you know, talking about things that we had a shared interest in. Good rapport. I've got them out of a financial mess several times over the course of 18 months. This particular client, they made a lot of money, but they also had a lot of expenses. So, you know, if you have 2 or 3 consecutive bad months, suddenly you're in the red and you've got to borrow money and you're in a big mess. So I've got them out of a mess more than once, a few times. And one day, unexpectedly, I got a message from them on Slack saying that at the end of the month I'm terminating my contract. Well, what? And then I kind of said, oh, I don't understand what. Well, so sorry, we value everything you do, but we can't keep working with you. We've had to make this decision purely from a financial standpoint. I hope you understand. You know, we'll pay you for the rest of the month, take the rest of the month to try and find another client and this and that, but I'm really sorry, but that's the way it is. And then I kind of said, well, I don't understand, because I've got you out of financial issues multiple times in the past. My target is to get this number of book calls per month. So we multiply this by the average conversion rate on the sales calls, which equals this much revenue from your email marketing, which you otherwise wouldn't have got. I looked back at the data and the tracking and said, well, I don't understand, because if we look from the start of the year to now, the average number of book calls that we've made is substantially higher than what my target is, 20, 30, 40% higher than what my target is. It's just that the last month or so, that yeah, naturally you're going to get fewer book calls at different times of the year, kind of thing. I am vastly exceeding what my performance metrics are. Yeah, he said, but you know, the thing is, when you have booked calls like this, you know, from the first book call that you have, usually it takes on average 6 weeks or so for someone to make a decision, and then they have to join the course. So there's kind of about a 2-month lag between your book calls and the revenue that we get from them. That's just the way that the business was. And well, it's now March, you know, we're talking about the March enrollment. I think it was the March enrollment. And honestly, Sam, I know this is not your fault, but all these book calls that you were sending us happened in December, and the sales team, you know, there's the Christmas holidays coming up. They've worked hard all year, you know, they're working 40, 50 hour weeks, they're on the phone, you know, it was over Christmas. You know, the sales team were looking forward to the Christmas holidays and doing this and doing that. The conversion rates on these on the book calls you sent us dropped from, which is typically 25%, down to 12%. So, Sam, we only made we only made half the number of sales that we normally do in December and early January, because the sales team, they switched off. They dropped the ball. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. But thank you for everything you've done. Goodbye. And so, flabbergasted. I'm shocked. What kind of thing? I over delivered on what my metrics were on average over, a period of time. I surpassed what I was supposed to do based on how you objectively measure my performance and my contributions, but you're getting rid of me because your sales team switched off because it was Christmas, and because Christmas is coming up in a few weeks and then getting a holiday, and that's me gone. Well, the point is that it very clearly showed that the client viewed me as nothing more as money, as a transaction, in terms of, you need to get me this number percentage return on investment, and if we don't make that financial target, I'm going to get rid of you because we can't afford you. Yes, from a business perspective, that's the right thing to do. Much better to get rid of a contractor than to get rid of their permanent staff. Fully understand. But my response to that, the response I got to that experience was, well, it is what it is, bad luck kind of thing. But it also made it very clear that when I was trying to inject the humanness, the transformative aspect into these relationships, it was just falling flat, and it just was not hitting, it was not resonating with them. All of this extra time that I put in, I got nothing in return, and the client didn't value it at all. And then there's another example. I started to work with the client. I got on with the client. Nice, really nice bloke. The kind of person I'd probably enjoy spending time with. But he was a bit of a workaholic, and he had a business and just liked to be busy constantly. And long story short is that he signed up to my, at the time it was my 90-day email optimization system, which would basically be that someone joins your email list, and then we have a pre-written sequence of emails that go out. So if they sign up on Monday, they get the welcome email on Monday, the first email on Tuesday, the second email Wednesday, etc. And then if they signed up on Wednesday, they get the first email on Wednesday, and then so on and so forth. So it was X number of days after they signed up. And then this welcome sequence here was designed to have a spike of book calls here, and then down and a spike of book calls here, which in theory, if people opt into the email list every day, you should have book calls all the time. And then after that, it was my 90-day email system, which contained pre-written emails at specific times, in addition to daily emails and daily broadcasts that go out at certain times. I won't go into the detail, but the whole point was we'll build this system that goes out over 3.5 months. And it's designed so you have a consistent spike of book calls over this duration of time. The problem I was helping this client solve is he wants more book calls. Okay, so we split it down into 3 parts. The fee, I forgot what the fee was for it, but it's a high ticket offer kind of thing. And long story short, he kind of one day he's focused on what I'm doing, building this system so we can get a replicable number of book calls per month, consistent, replicable, predictable, and simultaneously he's working on an app which does not complement what I'm doing for him. Simultaneously he's constantly on the phone with different people for various other things. and then he's trying to do his website, and then he's talking about something else, and then next thing he's going on a last minute trip halfway around the world because his wife's from Mexico, I think, and he wanted to go to Mexico with her. Again, it was just kind of a bit of a nightmare, because what happened was, because I needed to have a certain number of assets from him in order to build the system, and so because he kept jumping from one thing to the next, his focus kept jumping from one thing to the next, which ultimately led for me is that my project, which should have taken 2 weeks to do, I could have done it in 2 weeks kind of thing, and then I'm providing, as part of my offer, it was, I'll give you the deliverables and then I will provide ongoing support until the last email of this goes out. So in my mind, I'll get this in 2 weeks, we'll schedule it, and then I'm providing the ongoing support for the next 90 days kind of thing. Low touch support, consulting, this and that. Well, I think he committed to this back in January, and because he's distracted, he keeps pushing it back, keeps getting delayed. Well, I only get a fixed amount from this, and the more he pushed it back, the more my 90 days of support keep getting pushed back, and ultimately it kind of reached a point in March or April, I forget when it was. April, my wife was about to give birth, and I just said to him that, look, we can't continue to do this. This has been ongoing now for 3 months. Initially, when I gave you this proposal, it was to finish my obligations when my second child was born, because I can't commit when we've got a new baby, because of what it's like having a new baby. I can't commit, and you're not going to be my priority in this situation. My child and wife and my oldest son is a priority. I can't commit to the same level of excellence and giving you this time when the child's born. And so, because this has been ongoing now for 3 months, we have an outstanding balance. What I would propose is the fairest way to do this would be, why not just pay me 50% of the outstanding balance, and we'll stop there, to cover the last 3 months of my time with the voice notes, listening to his voice notes, responding to voice notes, to texts, to calls that we had, all these things, and he was shocked by my request. He couldn't believe it. He thought I was ripping him off, and his response was, well, Sam, I'm paying you for this deliverable. You haven't delivered me the full deliverable. Why would I pay you if you haven't given me what I'm paying you for? I'm paying you for these emails. You haven't given me the full email sequence. He kind of viewing it as he's just gone to his supplier, and his supplier is asking him to pay 50% of the fee, but he's not going to give him any stuff. That's the way it was viewing me. And then I went on to explain that, well, actually, what we're talking about here is that, what about all the consulting I've given you? What about the mentoring I've given you? What about all of the times when I've had calls with you and listened to your voice notes and gave you perspective on things? And what about that time when he had a troll that sent a pretty nasty email to him where, more than 50% of the words in the email was probably swear words, calling him every name under the sun, and he was depressed by it and down as you would be. And then I spent some time kind of counselling to help him get through that and to reframe it and all of these things. And he said, well, yeah, that's nice, thank you, but I'm paying you for these emails. And it puts you in a position where I could have gone and written the emails and given it to him in less than 2 hours. They wouldn't have been high quality, they wouldn't have been the best, and then I'd have been able to justify the outstanding fee. But I didn't. I decided not to, and to cut my losses and move on, because I knew deep down that this client was not going to, he wasn't going to use him, because he keeps pivoting, he keeps moving, and what we agreed to 4 months back is no longer his priority. He moved the goalposts. And I couldn't, in good conscience, deliver something to him that I know he's not going to use in order to get him to pay me. So I ended the contract and just moved on. But that was the last experience for me. Interestingly, that I did get value from this, because I mentioned that this client flew to Mexico from Australia, and he did so with a newborn baby. It was 3 months, so his in-laws could meet the baby. Well, as a result of him doing that, and me asking how it went, and he said, "Oh, the baby was a dream, not a problem." That actually inspired me to go back to England, so my parents could meet the new baby as well, while he was still 3 months, which I would not have done if this client hadn't have told me that it was easy and no problem, and sort of, gave me some suggestions on that. And it turned out that my parents even paid for our flights and taxied to him from the airport in England. So the amount that my parents paid for to cover the flights was about the same, maybe a bit more than what the outstanding fee was. So, that's what I got from that as a result from it. But this is the issue is the issue is that I'm trying to inject transformation into a completely transactional situation that I set up myself, and I completely set up the transactional relationship, and then I got frustrated when it didn't work. What I uncovered afterwards is, in order to make sure you have aligned clients, is you have to talk about what you call values are anchored in Christ. You have to talk about the impact that you want to have, and you have to use this language in your marketing and lead generation, and you have to become Christ-like in everything that you do in your business, which would be to act with extravagant love, humble service, the pursuit of excellence, having integrity, and you have to act like that, and then as a result you will attract the right people to you. And when you align on values and you operate and start the relationship off based on your values to start off with, ultimately the relationship with your clients will be aligned, rather than you trying to inject transformation into a relationship that is entirely transactional. Okay, that's all I've got for you. Hope if anyone's listening, I hope you found my experiences valuable, of what not to do, and the solution to it is you have to attract the right people to your business by becoming Christ-like and exuding Christian principles and biblical principles in everything that you do, and that will attract the right people to you. Okay, make it a great day. See you next time.